What's up, marketers? Today I'm going to talk about the modern day best practices of Facebook ads. Now, you may have heard myself or other experts in media buying throw around this phrase, modern day best practices. And I want to talk about what those actually are from the perspective of someone who works in Facebook ads every single day with brands that are spending around $1 million per month in ads. And the reason the modern day best practices are so important is because these are the strategies and tactics that are going to help you find success on the platform, like today in 2021. The reality is that if you're watching videos or reading articles from 6 months ago, those are already wildly outdated. And that even includes my own content. There are a number of things that I have changed my mind about over the last few months since I got a new job and started working at a new agency, started working with bigger brands, and ultimately just tested other shit. So no fluff. Here are the 7 modern day best practices on Facebook ads in 2021. Number 1, your creative is the most important thing to your success. A majority of your time should be spent ideating, testing, and developing new content to test on your Facebook ads. Now, to give some more context to that, I would say that 90% of the time that I am directly working on an ad account at Thesis, I am either analyzing, creating, or testing new content on Facebook ads. Now that's massive. So if you're spending less than 50% of your time giving attention to your creative, then I think you're doing it wrong. Particularly the kind of creative I'm seeing the most success with right now is user-generated content, which if you've seen my channel before, this is gonna come as no surprise to you. Now this is content that doesn't feel like an ad. It feels like something that your friends would make and post, and it feels a lot more organic, engaging, and ultimately intimate, which is why it works. Now I do have some videos that are all about creating user-generated content or how to source it, but if you'd like to see my updated strategy on UGC and ad content, be sure to leave me a comment below and I can create that video within the next few weeks. Now, number 2 is all about using the right objectives, which are going to be conversion or catalog sales. Now, here's the deal. I often hear from other marketers that you should always start off with a brand awareness or a traffic campaign, especially when you're dealing with a new brand or a new pixel or just for top of funnel traffic in general. And the reality is I never ever do that. I always use conversion campaigns, ideally optimizing for purchase, or catalog sales campaigns, again, optimizing for purchase. And yes, that is for prospecting, and yes, that is for new brands and new pixels. The idea that you have to build up your audiences and your retargeting pools with a lot of unqualified traffic is completely outdated. You actually can make money on that first touch point, and the best chance of success that you have at that is using the correct objective and yes, optimizing for purchase. Now, number 3 is to always segment your prospecting from your retargeting. And the way that I prefer to do this is to segment my prospecting and my retargeting in different campaigns. This is gonna do 2 things. Number 1, it's gonna allow you to analyze where your results are coming at from which part of the funnel. And 2, it's ultimately gonna give you a much more scalable foundation. From my perspective, Facebook is really good about finding your customers, but it often likes to take the easy way out. So if you have your retargeting and your prospecting not properly segmented from each other, then Facebook is likely going to be getting conversions that look like it's coming from cold traffic, but is actually just retargeting traffic, which ultimately is going to make you less scalable overall. So what I always do here is I make sure to exclude 180 days pixel website visitors. Now, I'll openly admit there's probably going to be a little bit of gray area here after iOS 14 rolls out in full. Now, for what it's worth, I don't exclude my social engagers from my prospecting campaigns, but you could. From my perspective, those people aren't that far down in the funnel, and I sometimes think that those social engagers that maybe click on your ad or watch part of your video just need to be hit up with another prospecting ad or something, or simply need another touch point. But you could be ruthless about it and make the argument that you want those to be completely separate. That's totally up to you. And number 4, your targeting for the most part needs to be broad, because if you're going to win in a especially if you're going to scale, then you need to be working with bigger scalable audiences. Now, I always test my creative with broad audiences because if an ad can succeed at broad, then it is going to be much more scalable. And yes, I do occasionally test lookalikes and interest targeting, but for the most part, these audiences are still going to be 10 million or more. And that's because Facebook does truly work with bigger audiences. And since I'm rapidly scaling up clients currently, they need that extra volume. I know I mentioned this in another video recently, but the days of having a certain number of people in your ad set are over. No one looks at that anymore, or at least I don't. And number 5 is to test everything. Now, I get a lot of questions on this channel, and 9 out of 10 times, if you ask me a question about something to test, I'm just gonna tell you to test it, especially as it relates to ad creative. Now, while a lot of strategy goes into developing winning ad creative, there's also an element of luck. And no person on the internet is going to be able to tell you what is best for your brand, even me, which is why I place such a massive emphasis on testing all the creative you can. You truly have to test it all. Actually, here is a fun statistic. I started my new job as a director of growth at Thesis in mid-January 2021. And I would say that since then, I've created about 50 batches of ad creative for my clients. And I would say about 4 or 5 of them have done really well, and the rest of them were flops. It just goes to show how much you have to test to make a win. And number 6, in Facebook ads land and paid social in general, it always depends. Here's the truth. There is no one size fits all to Facebook ads. And while I do believe that most successful ad accounts in 2021 are adhering to these modern day best practices, there is always an edge case. And I want to be sure to point that out. Additionally, I have seen the inside of hundreds of successful ad accounts, and not one of them is playing by the exact same playbook. And the way they got there was not by testing the right thing every single time, but because they never stopped testing or iterating. And number 7, the final one, which you might consider a wash, but I consider to be the most important of them all, is to never stop being curious. The people who do the best on these platforms are the people that are always curious about the results, about their customers, and about what other media buyers are doing and what strategies and tactics they're using. Because frankly, if you're not curious, you're not gonna test and you're not gonna succeed. But since you made it to the end of this video, that actually tells me that you are one of these people. And my biggest advice to you is that if you don't have friends in this space, or you don't know any other business owners that are using Facebook ads to grow their business, then you need to join Twitter. And this is obviously not sponsored by Twitter, although, like, call me. But on Twitter, I've been able to connect with several other media buyers and business owners and agency owners, and we routinely discuss what's going on in these platforms and tactics and strategies that we're trying and seeing success from. And it's been a huge driver for me in my career. So I would love it if you guys join me over there. Hit me up. It's like at Denney, Dara, I think. So if you ever actually want to ask me a question, the best way to ask it is to @ me. I generally don't check my DMs that much because they're very overwhelming. And I also don't really believe in email, so for what it's worth. And that is it. Thank you so much for watching this video. And if you have any questions about the Facebook ads modern day best practices, and if you think I missed one, because it's very possible that I did. Actually, before I filmed this, I quickly threw up a small post on Twitter to see if anyone would call me out and tell me I forgot this big obvious thing. Hasn't happened yet. Maybe Jess actually from Fireteam about exclusions. Be sure to watch that thread so that you can see what he has to say about that. But yeah, that's it. And I will talk to you guys next week. Later, bye.